On today's episode, we are talking with Sarah and Chris Rhoads, the founder of Commbi. Commbi is a footwear brand focused on making shoes that both look great and provide support needed for everyday life. Before starting Commbi, Sarah and Chris spent more than a decade working as a photography and creative directing duo. Their work took them around the world and shaped their eye for design and how people actually live and move. During that time, they realized that most shoes are either stylish but comfortable or supportive but not something you'd want to wear on a daily basis. So they set out to create something that did both. They developed a supportive footbed with doctors and specialists, then paired it with a clean, minimalist design. Since launching, Commbi has built a loyal community of customers who value comfort, thoughtful design, and long lasting wear. The brand has also gained attention in fashion and lifestyle media for its approach to everyday footwear. Sarah and Chris, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the brand study.
Thanks so much for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting episode. I was doing some research on the brand and I'm really fascinated by it. But I'd love to hear what the product is, about the brand, and really what makes you different than current footwear out there.
Yeah, so we are a lifestyle footwear company focused on wellness as a core proposition for the end goal of everything we do. All of our styles are really easy, slip-on kind of styles and silhouettes, clogs, slides, mules, slippers, things of that nature that allow somebody to be comfortable and also have the arch support they need and look good while they do it.
But there's a kind of a unique thing to our Commbi shoes, which is we have this patented interchangeable footbed system. So in all the shoes, you'll notice the part that you stand on, what we call a footbed, is removable and interchangeable. So let's say you want shearling in your shoe or just a different style or extra memory foam. It's all interchangeable and kind of mix and match across the entire product line.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so it's actually not just aesthetics that are interchangeable. You mentioned memory foam and shearling. So there's different textures and supportive behaviors as well in the footbeds.
Exactly. We developed the footbeds with podiatrists so they have proper ergonomic support for the rectus foot, for when you're standing, that sort of thing, so that you have arch support, deep heel cup, all the things you need to be feeling good if you have to be on your feet all day. I was personally struggling to find an option that kind of had the styles that I was looking for and also covered that orthopedic element because I found if I went orthopedic, it had a certain look to it. And if I went more style forward, it had zero, arch support or anything like that. And I would come back with a really sore back.
Well, kind of not to interrupt, but the kind of side story to that is, Sarah and we've had a creative studio for what is that, 15 years now or something like that. And so we would be on set for these long days with a lot of Fortune like 100 brands, right? So large scale companies. And, we would be on set, you're on your feet, you're directing talent, you're shooting. And so Sarah would be wearing, cool looking shoes or attractive shoes, but she was having to put various insoles in order to have additional support throughout the day. And it was like, if you can imagine a insole in a Birkenstock or in a flat like Gucci slide or mule, it just looks like a tongue kind of flopping around the back. We're like, wow, I think there's
So Chris
something
was like,
here.
we could do better. I had shopped every single shoe line imaginable that touted like comfort, support, that sort of thing. And I just couldn't find what I was looking for. And so Chris and I both basically set out to be like, well, we're creatives. We've been creatives for a really long time. If we're going to do this, like, let's do it our way. And we'd never done shoes, obviously, but I think when you're a creative person and you are spending your life focused on creative endeavors, I really do believe that there's nothing you can't do and figure out. And I think that's really core to like who Chris and I are, is we're like, we're going to figure this out and we're going to create it our way. And we're going to create a comfortable shoe that's supportive in styles that we ourselves want to wear, but also like, let's make it modular where people can switch things up, because I hated that in my Uggs, for example, when this beautiful shearling went flat, I had to throw away the whole shoe or donate it, and it only lasted a season. So I was like, there's a sustainability element here too, where if somebody wants to just customize it for a different season, now they're able to with our product offerings.
Interesting. Yeah, that's actually really fascinating. I never thought because, yeah, usually it is the footbed that's getting worn out first. I mean, that's what's getting all the wear and tear and the weight applied to it. So if it does wear out, it's a much smaller environmental footprint. I mean, it's a smaller piece of waste than throwing away the entire shoe. That's super cool. So you set out to solve your own problem of style and comfort. I think for anyone that's been in productions knows that they're grueling days, oftentimes 6 a.m. to
Yeah.
8, 9 p.m., like that can be the norm. But you all didn't come from footwear at all. So you're clearly wickedly creative people, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can go and make shoes at the same time. So, like, what you're like, okay, I want to go solve this problem. Did you start sketching? Did you start talking to other people? Like, how did you turn this idea into something that was tangible?
All of the above, Conrad.
Yeah.
We basically started letting ourselves be curious, I think would be step one,
Yeah.
is like saying, well, what if we created a shoe? What would we want it to have? And then we started sketching. I mean, literally hand sketching what that
Hmm.
might look like. Then Chris taught himself AutoCAD and we started getting a 3D printer and we started figuring out, okay,
Started prototyping basically.
prototyping.
So we would
Prototyping.
mock it all up we'd take it from like a sketch form and then bring it into AutoCAD and be like, hey, could this even work? And we started going through because we had this idea of the interchangeable footbeds. The thought process was, okay, how can this actually attach? How would this work? Is there anyone else that are doing it? And so, like Sarah said, it started with this curiosity and then lots and lots of research. I think there's a handful of careers. I mean, there's lots of them, but are very right and left brain. And photography and architecture and all these different things are these interesting balance, I think, and where you're trying to solve problems through technical means. And
It takes like creativity. Like I feel like composers, photographers, like Chris said, architects, it's like chefs. There's a lot of creativity in these sort of pursuits, inventors,
yeah,
entrepreneurs, but you need to have both sides of the brain. And I do feel like Chris and I very much like he is a creative in the sort of like problem solving. There's nothing he can't figure out or teach himself. And I am like a visionary. Like I could see it in my mind before this ever physically existed, and I knew we could do it. I didn't know how, but I trusted ourselves enough to say, like, let's try. So yeah, it really started in terms of allowing ourselves to be curious without letting ourselves be completely consumed by fear of, oh,
Yeah.
I haven't done this before. I've never made shoes, that sort of thing. And I think once we allowed ourselves to start playing and started seeing, oh, hey, we've figured out a proto, like we did thousands of protos to like figure out something that would work, and then also tangentially pursuing the patent on that because we saw, oh, this hasn't been done. Let's pursue our patent so that we can get patent pending, that kind of thing. And then it was finding a manufacturer who
yeah.
would take a risk on us and work with us.
As a small company, and yeah, it was
Startup.
yeah, it was a fun process of actually seeing like Sarah's initial sketches transferred into then AutoCAD, then to a 3D printer. Like we just kept marking it as
Then
progress.
to sampling with
Yes.
manufacturers that we talked to several work turned us away, and we basically used our network through We Are The Rhoads, our creative studio, and said, hey, we've shot a lot of shoe footwear companies over the years, big Fortune 100 ones. Who are we still friends with?
Yeah.
There was like creative directors there, and let's like see if they'll make intros to us to the right people who know the product space. So we had a contact at Adidas, and they basically said, hey, this is a manufacturer that I have worked with for many years. He's incredible. You should talk to him. He believed in what we were doing. He's all about startups. He's all about inventive sort of new approaches to footwear because not a lot of people are doing new things in that space. And he loved what we were doing, and he's been a great partner to us ever since. And thus kind of began the physical sampling process, which was also laborious but fun.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so cool that you essentially took on entirely new skill sets, like learning AutoCAD. That right there is not an easy feat, and learning to like actually convert that into 3D printed prototypes. So it was very much like you were learning new skills and trying to build out prototypes and building and essentially flying at the same time, which I think is so common and really inspiring as well.
We definitely use the term, which I'm sure you've heard with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like pulling the parachute on the way down, for sure.
Yeah.
It's how it
Yeah.
feels a lot of the time, but you kind of just trust your equipment and trust yourself, and you're like, all right, we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I think there's something for us. It's really, we enjoy that problem solving process and
Yeah.
just trying to understand new things. Like we have kind of a mantra for us is that beginner's mind of just constantly learning, constantly engaging. And also we've been really fortunate to like surround ourselves with just great people and experts in different things. And I'm a big believer, we both are, in terms of, when you have great teams, it helps you like execute, whether that's on the creative side or in shoe productions. It kind of all goes back to systems in a lot of ways. And that's really what I feel like keeps a lot of things moving in positive directions, is just constantly improving systems.
And having that beginner's mind where you just are always like, I want to learn. I have stuff I don't know here, and I'm excited to learn. So it's like
Yeah.
that has been a guiding light for us for sure.
Yeah, yeah, like truly being a student of life and being excited about what's unknown. You're like, oh, there's this whole path that's unknown. We're going to be able to learn all these things along the way. And like, that's ultimately like, even if this doesn't go anywhere, like, I'm excited for that process. And I think when that's kind of the mindset, usually the end result ends up working out because you're like, I'm excited for the process and to learn along the way.
Yeah.
But Chris, you mentioned systems, and you all are both still very much working with your creative studio, We Are The Rhoads, and running Commbi. First of all, how are you doing it? And what systems are you all implementing today to manage both businesses?
And we have 3 kids in there too, which is just a wild.
Okay.
Uh, like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's a whole extra level.
yeah,
We're masochists.
yeah. I think there's some.
No,
Yeah,
I think honestly, being entrepreneurs together over the last close to 2 decades
yeah,
has really allowed us to work through a lot of, I would say, kinks, or where you can depend on the other, how we depend on each other better. Where's Chris's strengths? Where are my strengths? And how do we rely on those to execute? And I also think if you've ever read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about like the 10,000 hour rule with any, creative endeavor or any endeavor really. Yeah. To sort of achieve a level of mastery, there's like this 10,000 hours of work invested into that. And so I will say with our creative studio, we've been photographers, creative directors for the last 15 plus years. So I will say with that, and we have so many relationships in that space that now when a project comes to us, we know how to execute really effectively, and we can just better decide, hey, is this something that creatively fills our cups because we still love to be storytellers and photographers? Or we also divide and conquer now. Like I took a creative project in Barcelona recently. Chris stayed back and was like manning the ship for Commbi. Commbi's our baby, and our that's where our energies primarily get filtered to right now because it's
Okay.
startup. It's like a lot to be doing.
yeah.
But the other one we are very much invested in, but it's still, that's been going on now. We have over 10,000 hours, you
Yeah.
know what I mean, in
Yeah.
that space, which does help.
Yeah, it does help. And it just like you said, there's also a certain, it's not like learning AutoCAD, right? Like we've already learned some of those things. And although we'll still bring that beginner's mind to all the creative projects that come across our desk, it's like, oh, how can we do this in a new way or in a unique perspective, or bring something that makes it feel unique to our kind of creative approach. At the same time, we're able to exist in kind of more of that flow state there, as opposed to, wait, what's the keyboard command to undo something in
Yeah.
AutoCAD or with the printer? Why isn't it feeding it properly? So it's like a different set of problems.
I think
And
the other cool thing for me has been working with brands now that like Chris and I are brand owners, and
Mm.
we have a different perspective that and value add that I think we can bring to the table in that space, which is like, oh, I understand all of the assets you are going to need, and let me become an even better storyteller to support you in that. And so I do feel like all of it feeds,
Yeah.
it all like rising tide lifts all ships. I really believe so. But it is, yeah, I will say it's a juggle, but it's like we've chosen this path and we like love this adventure path. It's not for everyone, but we are crazy people. So
I love it. I think it's inspiring. I mean, I think I'd maybe be a little scared to see your family calendar, but
fair.
but I think it would also be really really awesome. And yeah, I think once you kind of get into the flow, like you mentioned, you've been running your creative studio for 15 years. It's when you get that new project, you're like, okay, we know the systems, we know pretty much to a T how much time it's going to take to transport gear or what gear is going to be needed or who we're going to need to
Yeah.
bring on. So I think things do kind of get a little bit, like you mentioned, into that flow state. But I think with Commbi, like, I think there's probably still a lot of unknowns, right? Because you mentioned that you're still in the startup phase. Are you still experiencing unknowns on a
Oh
weekly
yeah.
basis, on a
Ev-
monthly
no, every day.
Hourly.
day?
Really.
And
Okay.
the reason for that, Conrad, is because when you're scaling a business at the same time, you're learning stuff, live action, and you also need to create systems like, oh, hey, we've outgrown this warehouse. We need to grow into another warehouse. Oh, we're actually going to be launching into wholesale in 2026. We need a system for that. We need to like onboard another customer service person because we're growing. So when you're scaling your business, which ours has been doing quite rapidly, it's like you are constantly in that learner state, and where you have to execute, you have to learn quickly and decide quickly like how to execute and create a system, which is what Chris is really good at, to make things flow as easy as possible.
Yeah, I think for both of us, it's so much also being open-handed about systems because I think I originally, this has changed over time, viewed systems as almost close-handed. It's like, okay, we put this in place and this is what it is, and don't adapt it or change it. And really,
Mm,
that worked in at a certain size, but as we've grown, I realized, oh, one system that we put in place, let's say was returns or exchanges or just our warehousing, as we've grown, there's new needs that are
Yeah.
revealed themselves. And once you do that, we've really taken on this approach of being open-handed with it to be like, great, we've outgrown that previous system. Let's find a new system now that will foster further growth. And at some point, that system will have to be improved upon.
Yes.
And I think we also talk a lot about just not holding things too preciously, and like that it has to be a perfect system at the beginning because we're allowing room for that kind of growth and adoption.
We have the 80/20 rule, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's like,
yeah.
get it 80% really where it's functioning 80% really effectively, and the other 20% we will optimize and we will improve and we will iterate on to close that 20% gap. So that's kind of the philosophy that we take with a lot of this stuff. And I think that's where the open-handedness that you're kind of talking about comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like really being flexible as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd love to go a little bit. So, like with systems and flexibility, I'd love to hear like how that applies to like actual product development as well. And maybe we can rewind the clock a little bit when you were first launching. So you had a connection from Adidas and they put you in touch with a manufacturer.
Mhm.
How did that first conversation go? How many iterations did it take? Were they like really on board? Like, let's go and do everything you're asking for? Or was there like some give and pull to making your vision happen? And also the business side of it, like minimum order quantities. And how did you navigate all of that?
Yeah, great questions, because I feel like these are all things that me myself as like a baby inventor entrepreneur in the product space specific to CPG really didn't know. And okay, so starting with sort of the product development phase of it, it took many iterations to get to like a shoe that we were satisfied with, even from the manufacturer standpoint. And I will say we're still iterating. Like we are constantly, we're pretty obsessed with like, how can we improve and optimize and make things better for our end user, our customers? So we talk to our customers, I mean, daily,
Yeah.
weekly, like, hey, the ones that weren't happy. The ones that are, what do you like? What do you want to see more of? What didn't work for you? Those kind of things. But I will say in the early phases, so much of it wasn't in that closing the 20% gap. It was more in like, can we even make a shoe that does what we are imagining? Because nobody had experience doing that. And so it was really, going out into the wild yonder with someone. And I think from years of honing our creative language, so to speak, it really did help us be able to articulate like our ideas and pen to paper coupled with the visuals and prototypes that we did have. But it was then coming into the weight of the shoes, the
Mm.
types of materials. We learned all about all of the different types of foams, materials, some we can't use because of this or that. And then it was like going into, I have gone to China and other Asian countries several times now to find just the right materials. Portugal, like going to
Mexico.
specific places where we can find ethically sourced, really good, high quality materials was really important to us. And so, all of that is such a process. And then, even our branding, the boxes, like I went out, met our tier 3 manufacturer. Myself, I've gone twice now to just do the box. Like our first box didn't satisfy me. I was like, this is bending at the edges, those kind of things. That is what I feel like it takes to be like a founder in the CPG space, is like really being super obsessed with the details. And I feel like we're still obsessed with those details.
Yeah.
Like we're working on a new product right now, which I won't share much, but I'm really excited about. And we are working with our engineering team, trying to solve some different areas that we can make the product even better. So that's kind of the product piece of it. And I will say I do a lot of the product design
Yeah,
and
100%.
the like outside of the tactile technical. I kind of
We joked that like Sarah and I are kind of head and the heart, so it's like things that are more aesthetic leaning, I would say, although we can play in each other's sandbox, like I defer to Sarah on a lot of those things.
but then I like bring it to Chris and I'll be like, would you wear this? Because we do men's and women's shoes. And I'll be like, what do you think about this? And he'll be like, I don't like this. I think this needs to change. It's like, okay, great. Let's try that on the next sample round.
And I'm more a little bit on the more technical side of like, okay, how can we get 2 millimeters of, height out of this? Or how can we
Yes.
change the wave profile?
How can we make this more grippy for, non-slip? Like
Yeah.
that's Chris's sort of area.
Yeah, I'm more the nerd side and Sarah's like the cool side. Then that's where we learn. But through that whole process, in shoes and well, in a lot of different products, but it's called tooling, right? It's making the molds for things. And that was one of the biggest challenges that we ran into early on was you can say, hey, let's make a shoe. And most manufacturers will immediately kind of put you through a like internal workflow. Like, okay, you'll use these molds and we can like do this and you can change the materials or do whatever, but you're really not creating something from scratch. And so
something that's truly differentiated in the market.
Yes.
That's like what we were like, no, we can't just do it like this. So we really had to guide and handhold.
Yeah, so that was the beauty of the AutoCAD and the 3D printing was we were able to physically test attachment systems and all of this before
in millimeters for our tech packs, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But before it went to actual market. And then with
Really important
shoes,
sampling.
but with shoes, it's not just one size too, right? So it's like you have to do, we do size women's 5 up through 15.
Men's 15.
So each one is its own tooling. There's a lot of startup costs there. But we also view that as just, although that's a large barrier to entry, it's also kind of a great asset for us too, because it also keeps other people from wanting to do all the crazy work to figure it all out. So
Yeah. Yeah, and especially to approach these manufacturers with, physical prototypes, like 3D printed. You're like, hey, like we've done the measurements, like this, works on a one-off basis. But then when you're like, oh, we're gonna make thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of these, like, and then you're like, okay, well, like, are there processes in place to be able to make these unique type of insoles that
yes, a good manufacturer is going to help you produce because they have expertise on
Commercialize.
the line, the manufacturing line. They helped us
Yeah.
understand, okay, actually though, we can't do it this way that you're imagining because we can't wrap the material this way, et cetera, et cetera. So it's finding that good partner was really, really crucial for us. And I will say having an MVP, like even if it's a really rough proto, very rough. Like it was
Yeah.
3D printed. I wish I could show you right now. It was not sexy at all. It didn't even really look like a shoe, but to have that, to at least do like we did a pre-seed fundraising round with friends and family to basically say, this is what we want to do. This is how much we need to execute on our tooling costs. Like, do you want to have equity, share in the
Yeah.
company for that capital? So that's kind of how we got it off the ground. So
Okay. Yeah. And were there any trade-offs that you all had to make between sustainability, durability, comfort, cost? I mean, you all are covering so many areas within your brand ethos. Did you have to make any trade-offs, or how did you balance that in the early days and
I'll
continuing?
I'll speak for myself. Because we're wanting to use higher end materials, I think one of the trade-offs is the cost. Like it's more expensive. Our price ranges from around 120 up to like 210. Some actually that are up to 240 for like these all leather Napa options. I would love to, as we continue to grow and scale, have even lower priced options just for like mass adoption. I'm very proud of our product and the quality of them, but there's costs associated with that, right? So it's constantly a balance. The
it's a
other,
give take, like you said,
yeah,
Conrad. It's like we decided to opt for quality to make our product look the way we want it to look and feel good and have high quality, ethical, sustainable type of sourcing. But also, as we grow and scale, hopefully the goal is to bring that down.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Keep the quality high, but bring the price point down as
The
we grow.
the other two, I think, for me, that's interesting balance points is weight and durability and quality. All those things. It's almost like a
Mm,
triangle that you're trying to. So it's like you can make things lighter and lighter, which some people like, but then there starts to be a negative crossover where you're having, less durability. And since one of our main kind of selling features is the fact that, oh, if your shearling goes out, you can replace just this one part.
We need
You
it.
want to be able to maintain a good durable product at the same time. So it's been, as kind of students of life, like you said, and just that learning process, learning different compounds and different densities and different durabilities and all of that. It's constantly like adjusting and refining. And so even though, we've been each new model that we release, there's some subtle change to that. Like, oh, let's make it a little firmer, a little softer, a little lighter, a little to try to
Improving.
improve.
Yeah.
yeah, constantly tweaking, trying to just improve the design. And yeah, there always are some sort of trade-offs. I think with shoes, I mean, I don't think the normal consumer really thinks about the complexities of shoes. But I mean, when we think about what a shoe undergoes on a day-to-day basis, I mean, it's undergoing like, hundreds of pounds of pressure and different materials and water exposure and dust. And I mean, shoes, I mean, definitely take an absolute beating. So like to be able
Yeah.
to make a shoe that looks good, feels good, and also has that durability component. Yeah, I mean, I could imagine it being so complex. It like hurts my mind.
And then when you add in the other variable of the human variable into that equation of everybody's feet are different.
Yeah.
Like some people have really wide feet. So we created a shoe with the podiatrist that has a wider toe box to like accommodate for that, the arch support, all those things. But it's still like shoes feel different on everybody's feet. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So there's also that factor that's like always another fun variable of shoes.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And did you do product testing with like a wide range of different foot sizes and foot styles and also validation? Did you validate the idea prior to raising a friends and family? Like, did you do anything online or just locally in your community? Was there anything beyond your own experience that were like, oh, this is a problem that a lot of people are having. Let's go
Yeah.
solve it.
We did conversational research, I would say,
Okay.
on like a lot of people in our demographic. I'll call us geriatric millennials, that sort of thing, that we're like, as we're aging into parenthood, that sort of thing, we still want to look stylish. We don't want to give up on style, but we also are prioritizing wellness above other things in our lives,
Yeah.
because we're slipping these shoes on and we're going to kid drop off, and then we might be going to Pilates, and then we're going to the grocery store, or we're going to work on our feet, whatever it is, and we want to still look good and feel good. And so I do feel like the validation process, a lot of it was like talking to a lot of different people. What are you looking for in something that is not an athletic shoe? That is also like, and a lot of women that I talk to are like, why do none of these shoes on Net-a-Porter? Why is Birkenstock the only player in the game for lifestyle footwear that's casual in nature, that has some kind of development of the footbed with regard to like support? And so I think a lot of that validation was confirmed through like talking to a lot of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
I would say.
Once we then also released the product, it was on a smaller scale, right? We were doing smaller orders, and we had done some sampling and prototyping where we had gotten some feedback with that. Within the shoe creation product, there's something called a last, which is what a shoe is built upon. And so there's one of the companies, which is the oldest company in the United States for it, it's called Jones and Vining. So we partner with Jones and Vining to help us basically take the data of the fact that there's however many different foot shapes in the world, and kind of start to actually make sense of all of that to create an accurate size guide. And then just taking that on through, like as Sarah mentioned before, continuing to innovate on it, right? So for example, at first, most of our shoes were kind of on a similar profile as this. And then we have people say, hey, I'd love to have a strap. So it's like, okay, well, we'll add a strap on it. Just things like that
Yeah.
are, I think, small but major changes that allow that growth.
Yeah. Yeah, and then finding a manufacturer, like, as a customer, you might be like, "Oh, it's just, like, easy, just, like, rivet on a leather strap to the back," but you're like, "Oh, well, our manufacturer doesn't do that." Like, they just don't. And then, like, you're like, "Okay, now there's, like, a whole additional supply chain," or, like, the shoe needs to get shipped somewhere else. I think, like, yeah, customers, it's so easy to, like, think of ideas and be like, "Oh, it'd be so cool to do this or to do that," but then to actually pull it off at scale and then at quality as well, it's a different story. You all have been entrepreneurs and running your own business for the last 15 years. And then I would assume, like, running a brand and a consumer brand, has that brought up additional challenges from a leadership perspective, like leading a team, growing a team, managing a team? Has that brought up any additional challenges and learning opportunities?
My first reaction is I wouldn't categorize it as challenges, because I do feel like with our creative studio, a lot of times we are brought in to take a vision and a budget for a brand and then say, we need you to cast, style, execute, produce it. So we usually are hiring like 60 people to then do that and then delivering to the client. And so I do feel like even though that is an ad hoc or a freelance sort of mindset where it's not like a consistent team always, I will say there's like a spirit of collaboration always with our creative process to begin with. And so I feel like that's just translated to this. It's more just we need, like Chris touched on earlier, experts in the areas we aren't experts. And I think that kind of honesty with yourself is really important. Like, we are not supply chain experts. So we sought the counsel and advisory of somebody who is, and she's on our advisory board. And she was head of supply chain and sustainability at Nike for over a decade. And now she's head of supply chain at another major shoe company now. And so she is a pro at that. And so she
Yeah.
like walked us through, guiding us, hey, we're running into an issue with this tariff issue. Like, Amy, can you tell me how you might navigate this? And having someone that's a sounding board for those areas where we aren't experts. Like, we aren't podiatrist experts. We need somebody to advise us in that way.
Yeah.
So we have Bobby on our advisory board, who's a podiatrist and is exceptional at that. And when we're developing a new shoe line, we go to him and say, hey, talk to me about this or that. We have another founder who grew her company from zero to $1 billion company, who also is on our advisory board, who I can go to her and say, hey, like, what do we do here? Like, she's not in the footwear space, but in the product space. And so I do feel like surrounding ourselves with experts is really important, and knowing the areas we're really good at and saying we're not great at these specific areas, but we are here to learn and become great at those things. But we need to surround ourselves with people that are, and then hiring, I just feel like has been pretty natural.
Yeah, no, I think
Team
Sarah
building.
is exactly right. Like it's not putting all the pressure on ourselves to be experts at everything, and
Yeah.
instead surround ourselves with people that can be, and being honest with that. Like someone told me a while back, or told us, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom, and knowledge is like
Hmm.
understanding something, but wisdom is kind of going through those things. So,
Experience.
and experiencing
Yeah.
that. And so, for example, supply chain, I can read all about it, and can have a Wikipedia level knowledge of weird, you know, nuanced things, but it's a different thing if you've brought thousands of shipping containers in from all around the world, and seeing those unique points of view. And so,
Circumstance.
and circumstances. And so for us, I think one of our, things that we're good at is finding, specialists at things, and being honest and upfront, and not saying, hey, I know everything about footwear. This is what we want to do. Come on board. Instead, being like, here's our idea. This is what we see. And I think you're great at inspiring that out of people as well. And then having people come on board that say, hey, I love what you're doing. Like our podiatrist is like, I love what you're doing, but if we make these changes, it'll be an even better product. And we're like, oh, that's great. Or with supply chain, it's like, hey, I love how you're doing this. This is pretty good. But if you make these adjustments, things can be even better.
Then you
And
can bring down their cost in this way, or et cetera. Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's humility at its foundation. It's like a sense of collaboration, and humility is sort of our approach
yeah,
to, I feel like there's a part of that that's just like part of who Chris and I are, and seeking wisdom. I think those three things are really like guiding lights for us as founders, is and curiosity. It's like that's sort of a magic sauce, I feel like, for getting us to, where we are, and guiding light forward too.
Yeah, and really just recognizing, like you all said, like recognizing that we are not experts in this one field. So let's bring outside people in, and knowing that. And then, but also finding the right people. I think that's a talent within itself. Like the fact that you've been able to attract those higher profile people, or, bring on podiatrists and doctors and other founders who have had that level of success. I think that's a huge talent as well, like being able to be that kind of magnet to draw those people in. Because, yeah, no one really builds anything alone. It really does take so many different types of skill sets, and at different stages of the company. Like
yeah.
one person might be the right fit at, day one or year one, but, by year five, it might be a different set of consultants or a different set of advisors as well.
Exactly. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
And you all mentioned you're going to aim for wholesale in 2026. I'd love to talk about growth and marketing and channel strategy. How has it been? How have you been able to make sales? How did you make your first sale? I always love hearing that story.
Oh, that's so funny. I still have that dollar that I just like made a dollar because it was all online, of course, through Shopify.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, we had not even launched yet. The site though, like was in like test mode, and somebody made a purchase. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was so excited. So yeah, I still have that up in my office. We're in Chris's office now, but that was a special moment. But I also feel like bigger picture, it was like I feel like in the first 6 months, we were like, we really need to know and have product market fit. We want to know there's a demand for what we're doing, that people want this, that people like this. And I do feel like in the last, our company's been alive for 15 months, like effectively since launch.
Yeah.
And
From launch, not before.
yeah,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
launch. I mean, there's so much, like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pre-stages of launching a product. But since launch, we've been alive for about 15 months, and we've just continued to see month after month growth. We're all DTC right now, direct to consumer, and that's been very intentional so that we can sort of hear from customers, iterate, improve before, we expand this any further, have control of the messaging, have control of the brand, improve the product, make sure that, hey, who is our customer? Find out, those kind of things
Yeah.
is really important, I feel like, in that first year. And we feel really good about our product
Yeah.
and where it is now and feel confident bringing it into the wholesale space. And we have a lot of people that have been asking us, hey, we want to carry your shoes in our boutique or in our shop, etc. And that's always been a part of the plan. Our vision for this isn't to just be like a cute little mom and pop shop, like we
Yeah.
want to be competing and taking market share from the greats. And I think although that's quite ambitious, I do think it's also, I think anyone can do anything with the right kind of attitude and spirit and dedication and tenacity. And yeah, that's kind of, I feel like right now we've just been DTC and
Yeah.
with hopes to expand,
And those first early days you were asking about that, from a marketing perspective, we do have like a real advantage, the fact that we have a creative studio, right? Most
Yeah.
brands, they're having to hire outside, in order to create their content. And the fact that we've been able to do, these large scale campaigns and mostly they're like the global campaigns for these large Fortune 100 companies. The fact that we can do that for our own company is a really kind of special leg up, the fact that we can vertically integrate that into things. So early on, we were able to reach out to various models and contacts and DPs and people that we know to produce and create a level that,
most new startup brands
yeah, just don't
can't.
have that like,
Yeah.
And we recognize that. And like, we're all about like when you pivot, it's so important to like utilize the skills you do have to like parlay those into your next venture. And I feel like, yeah, that's been a huge advantage. I mean, we've shot for Levi's, we've shot Taylor Swift for Keds, we've shot Coca-Cola, like large scale brands. And so although those marketing endeavors are different than a meta platform, a lot of those clients still are needing meta content, influencer
Yeah.
type of content. And so I will say we've learned a ton about the marketing strategy
yeah,
as it pertains to like
performance marketing.
performance marketing and what works for out of home, which is like billboards, which is what we're
Yeah.
used to shooting. It doesn't always work for performance, and I
Yeah.
know, I'm sure you know that firsthand.
Yeah.
And so we had to also learn really quick, okay, we can shoot a campaign for Commbi. Those images work really well on a point of sale, like our shop, our online
Yeah.
shop. They work really well for a warm audience. What works even better though for someone who has never heard of our brand and is looking to try us out, I feel like as testimonials is actual UGC. We don't pay for UGC. We've just done trades. And if somebody likes it, great. And you want to review it, we've gotten great things through that avenue. And yeah, that's it. What were you going to
I think it's really coming, if I put on, the We Are The Rhoads hat, it's been a really fascinating education process
Yeah.
to see, because I went in with my own kind of preconceived notions of used to shooting billboards or these whatever, Times Square type things, which is amazing. And it's like, oh, we know how to do this. And we would do these tests of, hey, here's a really well done, lifestyle image. And here's like a more
down?
down UGC, and the
Yeah.
UGC on a cold audience would just blow it out of the water. And I think really informed both businesses in a
Yes.
lot of ways, where even I talk to friends that have large production companies or small ones or animation. It's like, oh, it's not what you think it is. And where Sarah and I are different is I love data. Like I'm a data first person. Again, it's the nerd side. And Sarah is like so much more in touch with like emotions and I think the big picture and aesthetic. And it's so funny to kind of balance both of those things where
With
Sarah,
marketing.
yeah,
That's what marketing is.
yeah,
It's like creative meets data.
yeah,
Like that is
Yeah.
marketing.
yeah,
And so it's like I'll create something that like it's like, oh, I think this is great. Like I'm loving this. And sometimes it's like the audience isn't responding as great, so I've learned so much just how to be a better marketer, how to be a better storyteller. Storytelling for your audience is really important depending on like where it's going to live. So yeah, that's been fun to
yeah.
learn.
Have you noticed similar things?
Oh
Yeah.
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 Oh yeah, yeah. Sometimes, we're shooting, like you're mentioning, like a really slick, nice looking lifestyle piece and, spend, a whole day on one or two pieces. And then meanwhile, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna snap a few, almost like behind the scenes on like my iPhone with
Yeah.
like someone holding the product like over a sofa and like I include all of it like in different buckets and it's like, oh, the iPhone
Yeah.
photos are outperforming like 10x from
Yeah.
the professional lifestyle video that's shot on a red with like
Yeah.
color grading and all of that 4K. I think for creative people, it's kind of hard to like swallow that pill of like, oh, wait, actually, highest quality doesn't necessarily mean highest performance, especially when it comes to Meta
Right.
or TikTok or
Yeah.
Snap or pretty much any of the social media platforms. But
Yeah.
it also is still important for like brand building. So it's like you have to find both. I think a lot of brands right now are kind of struggling to find both and to
Yeah.
find that balance. And I think for young brands like you all and Commbi, I think it's a huge competitive advantage because you're kind of learning, these new digital marketing strategies at the same time of having all this high-end production background in your back pocket.
Yep.
Yeah, I just personally, it's really interesting to me, and I think that that's what's fun about it. I don't necessarily view it as like, oh, it's disappointing that this one's performing better than the other. What I kind of keep coming back to, and I know Sarah feels similarly, is it's just what's most interesting, and I feel like that's art in
Yeah.
general, right? It's like when things are interesting or captivating, that draws people in, and so depending on where it's being viewed or seen,
Yeah.
that's going to have a different response. And so
Yeah.
something that looks like a billboard that's viewed as a billboard is going to be different than when it's being passed, while scrolling. And so,
I also think people don't like, I mean, myself included, we don't like to feel like we're being marketed to. And I actually
Yeah.
think that's what we've been
yeah,
hired to do in the past is
yeah,
like create scenes like that feel very real,
yeah,
that
yeah, that are
that
honest.
feel like effortless and like they aren't ads. Like that's our forte.
Yeah.
And so that it's just like taking out the really high end camera and shooting it on my iPhone
Yeah.
and learning CapCut and all the things, like just kind of taking it from hi-fi to lo-fi. And it's actually an easier transition than going
Yeah.
probably the other way around.
Well,
So
and we say
Definitely.
process dictates outcome, right? And so sometimes the iPhone is the right process for that,
yeah,
Yeah.
So that's yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I think the format that people are consuming content really determines the performance and what the creative should be. It's different when it's a billboard and you're not really competing with other media like at that time and you're competing with other attention grabbing things like if you're driving, but if you're scrolling through Instagram, yeah, like you don't necessarily want to get served an ad at that point in your life. You want to get served something that's educational or entertaining
yeah.
or both. And how do you like create an ad that doesn't feel like an ad? Is paid media one of the biggest drivers for you all currently?
Yes, it is. And I would say that's like a huge push for omni-channel expansion is like right now, you never want business to be on a single lever channel. You know what I mean? Like it's just you want diversification and it helps with brand awareness to have that diversification sort of support your growth. But it was also just very intentional about, you know, our capacity, what we needed to iterate and improve. And now we're in a place where, like I said, it's like, okay, this feels like the time to jump and do that kind of expansion.
yeah. We kind of view PPC a lot of ways as the same as like a wholesale cost, more or less. Like it kind of balances out in a lot of different ways. But yeah, it's like maintaining a like profit first mindset in that, while still growing and just continuing to scale. But I mean, we've seen changes over the past even year as Meta adjusts and Instagram and all these different, Google. And so we're constantly kind of monitoring, on the just data side of, okay, how's Google doing? How's Meta doing? And adjusting
Adjusting the sails
those levers.
like sailors.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course like saying, okay, let's also bring in a new boat.
Yeah.
Let's take this sailboat and keep adjusting the sails, but we want to bring in a new boat over here and let's also try a little lifeboat over here and see what happens. You know what I mean? And start to
Retail.
expand for retail, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, starting on a paid with a paid strategy, you're like you all said, you're able to really refine messaging. You're able to collect that data. I mean, you're able to see like this equals this, and you can see the customer journey pretty much in real time and like how different messaging responds. So when you all do expand to retail, you're going to have all of those insights and all that learning about what messaging is responding to that audience. So then you can roll it out into different formats. Was that kind of like the reasoning behind it? Is like own
Yeah.
it online, and then you can expand it into out of home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Own it, learn it, expand it. We wanted to really get our arms around what we were creating because first you're inventors, then you're product launchers, then you're like operators, you're
Yeah.
creators. I feel like it's a,
Bunch of hats.
yeah, there's just a bunch of hats that you need. Like we wanted to really get comfortable it's still uncomfortable a lot of times, but get more comfortable wearing so that we could say, okay, we've got our sea legs about us, and now let's
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've all been able to accomplish so much. I mean, 15 months, that's a baby company still. I
Yeah,
mean, I feel like, until like year 5, year 10, then like things are like, okay, like we can start understanding like what to expect at different times of the season and
yes,
all of that. But I feel like you've
yeah.
been able to accomplish so much in the product line, and everything is so expansive. I mean, I was surprised to learn that you've been around for just longer than a year. You guys have been working, that's for sure.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And looking forward, so I mean, Combi's still 15 months in, but looking forward 5 or 10 years, what do you want people to feel when they try a pair on and first interact with the brand?
I think when they first slip their feet in, it should feel like, oh, this feels really good. And also, I just feel like this is easy. It feels good in my body. Feel good is kind of like a phrase that we use a lot around here, like just to feel good in whether that's like when you put on a favorite shirt that you like and you feel good in
It's
it.
an internal confidence.
Yeah, an internal kind of confidence and ease, I think is important. What else would you
No, I
say?
I think when we fast forward 5 years, it's like I want there to be just an association with quality and like there's a ubiquity with it. I think our goals, we're both so big on like when you kind of put a goal out there, it gives you something to move towards. And so, we want this to continue to grow so that it's a household name, and so that we're taking market share from the Birkenstocks and from the aunts or the Hokas and there's although those are more sport focused, like there's
Crocs.
Crocs and Uggs, like there's a big sandbox there that we want to start, making our little corner of. And I think that as we continue to grow and make the product better, which I'm already proud of, but I think that as we expand to have new product offerings in the footwear space, that's what excites me. It's not so much right now we're on our path to like 10 million. It's like I want to get to 50 and to 100 and 300 million. Is like those stepping stones to that are really what kind of is dictating how do we grow this and expand it.
And I think for me, it's like, how can we provide benefit for people that are looking for something that isn't being offered out there? Like,
Yeah.
how can we make people's lives just a little bit better? Like, I'm not sitting here delusional saying footwear is changes your whole life, but I do think it's the little things in your life that like end up making your life. And I do feel like if we can make people's lives a little bit better and then, you know, create a space that has community around it, I think that for me would feel like a lot of success. So yeah, that's kind of big picture. We really are actively growing this to better people's lives and
And we do oversee a lot of the customer service, right? Like we'll like phone calls are still routed sometimes to Sarah's cell phone, which is fun. And I really enjoy talking to customers. And
I do too.
it's interesting because there are a lot of people with foot issues or that have like
Plantar
specific, yeah,
fasciitis and bunions and all kinds of things. And they're like, your shoes have like legitimately changed my life. I have 6 pairs or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I was a dancer. I had bunions. I had plantar fasciitis. And like to know that it's not just it didn't just help me, but it can help other people.
Yeah, it's not just we didn't wanna just have, like, a marketing angle, where it's like, "Oh, well, they look cool," but it's still the same thing. It's like, no, there's actually something here
Or
that makes it there's, like, a core differentiation that makes the product better for people, and I think when we have that, like, internal confidence of knowing that, it makes it also easy to bring other people involved that are excited about the product and want to see it grow because you see that, like, residual benefit in the community.
Yeah. And you all actually just answered my next question, which was, what is the one thing that you're most proud of so far? And I think it is that you're making people feel better through footwear, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say for me, the thing that I'm most proud of is actually bringing something that lived in my mind's eye into the physical world is something sort of miraculous. And it feels like there's all these people that have to come alongside you. There's just like a magic that happens. And I feel like that feels really special to me to have been a part of and to continue to be a part of, to be like, oh, we're bringing something into the physical reality that it existed in sort of this place up here, and to build relationships with not only customers but like our team of people. Like I love relationships and people, so that feels like really exciting for me. I love that part of it.
I'm so proud though of just also getting a patent. I know that might sound like a somewhat
It
of
was a
an
huge hurdle.
afterthought, but going through the patent process, and again, as a kid, I remember seeing these like commercials on like, become an inventor, register your patent on, now. And the fact that we've been awarded a patent, we're no longer just like patent
A
pending.
couple
Yeah,
patents.
is a weird just thing that I'm proud of,
And we learned a ton about patents and trademarks in that process that
Yeah,
we did not
yeah,
know. And
yeah.
yeah, you should feel proud of
Yeah,
that.
and so it's like as excited and proud of or as proud that I am of the product itself. That knowledge of learning the patent process and all of that is also really exciting to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge feat. And yeah, that's a huge moat of differentiation to avoid future competitors. Well, Chris and Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on everything that you've been able to achieve so far. Thank you so much for joining me on the episode and for sharing all these insights and stories.
Thank you so much for having us, Conrad.
Yeah, great to
Appreciate
meet
it.
you. Thanks for having us.
That was Sarah and Chris Rhoads, the co founders of Commbi. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to click that follow button on your podcast app so you never miss a new episode. If you're looking for more practical takeaways to grow your brand, subscribe to the Brand Study newsletter. It's packed with exclusive content, deep brand analysis, and real world insights you can actually use. Sign up today at thebrandstudy.co. I'm Conrad, and I'll see you next time.